Media briefing by the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster will be closely watched this morning as authorities outline their festive season safety plans. Recently, the cluster's response to the July civil unrest came under much scrutiny during the South African Human Rights Commission's hearings, you'll remember. Concerns were also raised about their slow response to the riots, prompting the question, how safe are we as a country? And are they actually capable of dealing with any threats that may arise? Well, Jakkie Cillers is the founder and board chair of ISS Africa. He joins us now via our video link for perspective. And Jakkie, it's great to have you on the program so early in the morning, no less, on a public holiday. Thanks very much indeed for making time. I imagine when government was planning this briefing, not much thought was really given to the prospect of more riots because of Jacob Zuma possibly facing the prospects of spending Christmas behind bars. Given what's taken place in the last 24 hours, this kind of issue, without a doubt, certainly top of mind for those officials.
Yes, of course, there's going to be the appeal that has to be heard before Zuma goes back to jail. I think the Zuma Foundation and Correctional Services have indicated that they're going to appeal, but I don't think the appeals will succeed. So hopefully we will see Jacob Zuma behind bars and serving, I think, the remaining, 13 months of his correctional services. And that does present South Africa with a challenge because the extent of factionalism within the ANC has spilled over into the public domain and literally is making South Africa more unsafe.
Sure. But, I mean, the context right now is quite different as well. I mean, you know, a lot of experts who'd weighed in back in July had spoken about an unprecedented set of circumstances, for lack of a better term. Do you reckon that even if he was to head back to jail, let's say by Christmas, that is enough ground for the kind of violent unrest we saw in July?
No, I think this time we won't see that level of violence and unrest. I think the security agencies were caught completely unprepared. Now, we still have the same problem in terms of a broken intelligence system, but I think both the police and the military, given what's been exposed by the Human Rights Commission hearings, the lack of collaboration, the infighting, would probably try their level best to try and avoid a repetition of what was really quite an embarrassing situation, I think, for all three, intelligence, police and the military. That reflected very badly on their professionalism. The challenge, of course, is what's going to happen within the ANC, because we have these divisions within the governing party that play themselves out within the security agencies. We can see that clearly to the extent to which, for example, the military medical services have been instrumentalized in this whole saga. And then the differences in opinion between police at a provincial level in KwaZulu-Natal and at a national level, amongst others, never mind the lack of collaboration between the police and the military. So I think that hopefully the Human Rights Commission exposing these issues, that we'll see a more coherent and a more cogent response from the security agencies.
Absolutely. I mean, the doublespeak, for instance, is still a question mark that many people have. We still don't know whether there was any report between Ayanda Ndlovu and Brigitele, given the remarks that they both made in public about what they knew and what they didn't. Given that uncertainty, how worried should we be as we head into December?
We should be concerned, but I do think that this time around the situation is quite different. The violence that we saw in July was a wake-up call for all South Africans, and none of us want to see a repetition of that. And I think hopefully the President will issue instructions, the police, the military will be better prepared and be prepared to collaborate. We have a new Minister of Defence. The infighting within police between the National Commissioner and the Minister has not yet been resolved. So I'm not sure if we'll have the Minister on the ground acting as if he is the National Commissioner or vice versa. But I don't think we're going to see the same level of violence. And depends, I guess, if the pro-Zuma faction within the ANC, the RET faction, manages again to mobilize and what happens within the ANC, because this is really where this all comes from. It comes from within the ANC, within the governing party.
Absolutely. How should we read into the fact that despite how much time has actually lapsed, there hasn't really been much accountability for what actually took place? And we've heard from many experts like yourself that for a lot of criminals, for lack of a better term, to even commit crimes, what they consider is whether or not they'll be found and held to book.
Yes, this is a huge issue. There's the old expression that the fish rots from the head. And the extent of the lack of accountability within the top leadership of the ANC and the divisions within the governing party set the example for the rest of South Africa. We have a former president who gets away literally with murder and is able to manipulate and use the legal system to delay and frustrate the court, even the constitutional court. And this cannot, if this carries on, then perhaps there's no, it's not a surprise that ordinary people feel that they can get away with literally with anything, because the top leadership does not demonstrate accountability. Accountability must start at the top and within cabinet and within the ministers and their relationship with their director generals and down that hierarchy. And unless that changes, we will not be able to re-establish the rule of law in South Africa, which is absolutely critical to restoring stability, getting investors, and reinvigorating our economy, reducing unemployment, and all of those things that are critical for a more prosperous and stable South Africa.
Yeah, you're alluding essentially to issues around confidence in our government. If today's briefing is to boost any kind of confidence, what do you reckon ought to be said when ministers start speaking? And by the way, I don't even remember us having these kind of briefings in the lead up to the festive season, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but if it is unprecedented in that way, what do you read into it?
We've had, I think we have had these kind of circumstances before,
right.
But I think we have particularly a new Minister of Defence, Thandi Modise, doesn't take nonsense. And we have a gung-ho Minister of Police. I think that they will come together, given what's happened at the Human Rights Commission. And I think a clear line will be set down. We may even find some preventive deployment. Certainly, already a lot of the security agencies are not on leave, because the Christmas season is always a challenge for particularly the police, because of violence associated with New Year and Christmas and so on. So I'm quite confident that they will present a coherent message to South Africans, but we need to see action. We really can't have this kind of anarchy and violence that we saw in July repeat itself in South Africa. We've had the sort of the impact of the COVID already on the South African economy, on our tourism sector. We really need to handle this in a very professional manner. We've done it before. Let's hope they get it right again.
Absolutely. Jakkie Cillers, great to speak to you, sir. Thanks very much indeed for making time. Jakkie Cillers is the founder and board chair of ISS Africa. Once again, thanks very much indeed.